In this lesson, you will learn how to create, modify, and use classes in Tricentis Tosca. A class is a Tosca object which allows you to reuse an attribute multiple times. This is similar to the library concept in the test case section. You can define a class which would contain attributes and, if applicable, their instances and combinations, and then reuse it as many times as necessary in different test sheets. Think of a customer attribute, for example. In a project where the application being tested is used by customers, there will be many test sheets in a project which will require customer data. Rather than recreating this customer attribute structure with its relevance instances from scratch in every test sheet, we can create a class up front and then reuse it in what is called a class reference. Using classes will save time and effort, reducing redundancies in the project. Additionally, once a class is updated or changed, so are all of the references to this class. This means maintenance is centralized and maintenance time is reduced. Classes can be created in 4 ways. First, you can create a class by creating it manually within a test case design folder. Within this class, you can create attributes and instance combinations as required. Second, you can drag and drop an existing attribute or attribute structure onto a test case design folder. A new class is created and the original attribute is converted to a class reference. Thirdly, you can right-click on a test sheet and choose the option Extract Class. This will take the entire test sheet structure and convert it into a class. And a class reference is created which contains all attributes and instances that were in that test sheet. Fourth and finally, you can create a class by dragging and dropping a module onto a test case design folder. The class adapts the name of the module attributes become test case design attributes, and the value ranges of the module attributes become instances for each of their corresponding test case design attributes. In this course, however, we're only going to focus on the first 2 methods. When you create a class manually, it's similar to setting up a test sheet. You will right-click on the folder, select Create Class, and then add attributes, instances, and the combinations as needed. As mentioned before, if you drag and drop an existing attribute structure which contains instances on the top level, meaning that there are combinations on that attribute level, onto a test case design folder, a class will be created and the existing attribute will be converted into a class reference. If you drag and drop an existing attribute structure which does not contain instances or combinations at the highest level, you'll receive 2 options: Create Class from Attribute and Create Structure from Attribute. Create Class from Attribute will copy the attribute and instance structure as well as automatically create instance combinations on the basis of the existing combinations in the test sheet. Create Structure from Attribute will copy the attribute and instance structure from the original attribute, but will not create any combinations. When you drag and drop an existing attribute to create a class, notice that the attribute icon changes. A white arrow appears to indicate that this is now a class reference. Please remember, as with libraries, you must select Resolve Class Reference on the reference itself if you want to make changes or to remove a class without changing the values in the reference. Once the classes are created using any of the above methods, you can then modify them as you would a test sheet. That means you can add or delete attributes, create or remove instances, and modify the instance combinations. You can also assign characters and position to the instances. The entire class can now be used in multiple test sheets as class references, and there is no limit to the number of class references to a particular class. This means you can drag and drop the class into a test sheet and the structure will be brought into the test sheet as well as the combinations you created in the class, if any. When you've added new combinations to a class, you can go back to the class reference in a test sheet and you will see that the newly created instances are now listed. In our scenario, you'll be adding 3 new product instances to the product class. This will allow us to combine multiple products in one order, as well as reuse the product class in later test sheets. Once you have completed your product class, you can now add a second product into your test sheet and modify the test sheet to reflect the combination of the 2 products. This means adding 3 new instances to the test case to reflect the 3 new combinations added to the class. Remember, when creating these new instance combinations, you should consider that we have combined using the linear expansion methodology. So we should complete our list of instances with this methodology in mind. In this case, we use every instance we've created. However, not every instance will be required in every class reference in a real project, as they will be reused in different contexts. This is not a problem. You need only use the relevant instances for the context. Unused instances will be bolded in the test sheet. It is also possible that you will not need all attributes in every class reference. In this case, you can actually mark particular attributes in a class reference as irrelevant for this particular test sheet, and they can be hidden from view. To do this, you will need to select the column Relevant from the column Chooser. Each attribute within a class reference will have a checkbox next to it. When the box is ticked, which is the default value, the attribute is considered relevant. When you untick the box, the attribute will be grayed out. You can toggle between hiding and revealing these irrelevant attributes by using the shortcut F11.